When Ivan Gazidis was chief executive at the club, he wanted to create a continental model, and that would involve a number of heads of department, whether it be head of recruitment, head of football, head coach, head of high performance. And he implemented it. A number of individuals came on board, the likes of Darren Burgess on high performance, Raul Sanllehi as head of football relations, later head of football, Sven Mislintat as head of recruitment, Huss Fahmy as head of contracts. The only thing remaining was the head coach role, and Arsene Wenger was replaced with head coach Unai Emery. That seemed to be the model that Arsenal would go forward in. However, Ivan Gazidis left. Soon after, Sven Mislintat was gone, Darren Burgess left, and now Arsenal are in a position where Raul Sanllehi has gone too. People have come in the meantime, Edu as technical director, and so that continued this sort of continental model. But with the departure of Raul Sanllehi, things are looking very different at Arsenal. At the top of the organisation now is the man who he shared the leadership with, Vinay Venkatesham. He has gone from managing director to newly appointed chief executive. Raul Sanllehi has not been replaced. It was clearly an aim of Arsenal's owner, Stan Kroenke, his son Josh, who's a director at the club, KSE, Kroenke Sports and Entertainment, who are the overarching organisation in charge of this, to create a leaner, more efficient Arsenal. Many of the redundancies that were made, we were told that they needed to be made regardless of COVID, and that this had kind of escalated the process. Arsenal want to become a more streamlined organisation, more fit for purpose in not only the COVID but also the modern era. That means the hierarchy of the club looks very different to how it looked not so long ago. Player recruitment at Arsenal has undergone enormous change in recent times. If we take the story back, Ivan Gazidis was chief executive, was very keen to embrace data, statistics, numbers, analytics, and Arsenal acquired the American company StatDNA and their boss Jason Rosenfeld. That became a really important part of Arsenal's decision-making process around potential signings. It culminated in the arrival of Sven Mislintat as head of recruitment from Borussia Dortmund, because he is a real disciple, a believer in the numbers, the data, the analytics. But that sort of thing was always likely to create a bit of tension within any club, because there will always be people of a more traditional, old school mentality. And there was certainly tension between Sven Mislintat and Raul Sanllehi, who, after the departure of Ivan Gazidis, were the two guys basically responsible for the recruitment. Sven Mislintat left and Raul Sanllehi was in position to take things forward. Now, it was Arsenal's aim to appoint a technical director who would be ultimately responsible for recruitment. They considered a number of options, including Monchi. He had recently left Roma. He's renowned throughout the game as one of the best operators, but he decided to go back to Sevilla. Arsenal turned their attentions to Edu, their former player and invincible. He had experience at the Brazilian FA but also Corinthians, just not in a European club or in the European transfer market. So as he gradually integrated, Raul Sanllehi was left to lead this forward in conjunction with Arsenal's recruitment department. And Raul Sanllehi favours a more contacts-based approach, relationships, like a black book of connections that is said to be second to none. And many people have looked sceptically at some of these relationships with certain agents, but that's the way Arsenal looked to be favouring. Then came the overhaul, the restructure of the club, and that saw the recruitment department, in the words of some I've spoken to around the club, decimated. The likes of Francis Cajajal leaving the club, Brian McDermott too, and many more besides. Well, the full details behind Raul Sanllehi's departure from Arsenal still remain relatively vague. Arsenal released a statement pointing to the idea that it was part of their cost-cutting measures around the COVID crisis, that it was a role that they had decided wasn't necessarily essential and that it would be discontinued. But The lack of detail and also crucially the timing, because Raul Sanllehi was negotiating a number of potential transfers for Arsenal and the Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang contract, so this was the middle of the transfer window, led to suspicions that there could be other reasons. Now, we've heard so much speculation around Arsenal, around Raul Sanllehi, a lot of reporting about his relationships with certain high-profile agents and Arsenal conducting a lot of deals with the same agents, but we've got no reason to suspect there is any wrongdoing. We only have what Arsenal have announced, and until we maybe hear from him or more from the club, we won't know if there are any deeper reasons to it. We only know what we know. But it is a big moment for Arsenal. Losing their head of football in the middle of the transfer window will not have been a decision taken lightly. Leaving by default, you could say, Edu at the top of the tree as technical director, in conjunction with Mikel Arteta, whose title has been changed from head coach to first team manager, and he will certainly have more power than ever before around recruitment. And then there are other individuals supporting as well, the likes of Ben Napper, the loans manager, then filtering down to the academy, somebody like Lee Heron heading up recruitment there, Per Mertesacker and other individuals. And it's really fascinating to look at the way that the academy has started recruiting over the last few months, picking up players who have perhaps fallen out of contract elsewhere. Will they start to look to go down the route that Chelsea have operated on in recent years, making it almost like a second business, signing players, loaning them out, trying to develop the best ones, keep them in-house, then sell for profit those that they've bought in from cheap? That's an area to watch. But on the first team side, it's almost like Arsenal have winded back the clock, going from this continental model with a huge number of bodies, a huge number of cooks, you could say, to very few, almost like less is more. And they will hope that this is an intelligent way, a more modern way to go forward, and that it will lead them to success in the transfer market.